cared enough to correct it before we hurt anybody. So that's what, those are your roles. This is a day, I'm just telling you here. Okay, and I'm sure this is all on video. Alright, okay. Again, initial activity. When you first meet that student, what are you going to do? You're going to determine the level. How you're going to know that is the academic facility that you're working with should let you know what semester the student is, what the objectives for the clinical course are, and what the expected clinical behaviors are. Again, as we said, we wouldn't expect the same thing out of a first semester student as a fourth semester student. It just wouldn't be realistic. We're going to talk about clear expectations and limitations. What is it that the student cannot do? And you would be surprised at what students try to do that they cannot do. We had a student go and give morphine without checking with them, without having that dosage checked by the instructor. The nurse on the floor didn't check it. They just went and asked the nurse for the morphine. She gave it to them, and they went and gave that patient morphine IV without anybody checking it or being there. Now, did that student show good judgment? No. We had a first semester student that did that as well. No, they didn't do IV morphine. It was PO medication. It was PO medication. But still, do you see the difference for them to give a PO medication in fourth semester that had not been checked? It's not the same thing as the first semester who were only hoping they knew what they were doing. Because they haven't had their full pharmacology course. I mean, they're novice and they don't know. So we have to know what they can't do, and those are things we need to spell out. And what I know we chose to do is what they can't do in the externship is what they cannot do on the floor. So each one of you should be given a list of things that those students cannot do, and the students are told that as well. You have to initiate the relationship. Nursing is one of the most relational professions that there are. How many of you developed relationships with your faculty? Maybe not so much in your first, maybe not so much in the first, but as I progressed through when I got my master's, when I got my PhD, certainly that relationship changed. But I still remember fondly some of my nursing instructors, even the one who told me I was a little spastic, but 110% given, I still think fondly of her and model a lot of what I do because she was such a good instructor. But the relationship is how you set forth your relationship, how welcome that student feels, how, what's the word, not approved or accepted, but that you're glad that they're there, will then help you to be able to say things like, you were late, you really don't need to be late. It comes easier from someone that we feel cares about us than someone we feel doesn't care about us. So if they get the idea that you wish they weren't there, that they're a bother, then that's going to affect the relationship, which will affect your ability to impact their growth and their progress, and that will ultimately impact their evaluation. So that relationship needs to begin right off the bat. And you kind of want to say, I'm the instructor and you're the student. And sometimes you have to say that to people in order for them to understand that, because they will try to run you and tell you what is what, because they try to do most the same way. So you just have to work on them. And we have to develop communication patterns. We have to have that healthy therapeutic communication that I know all of you have had ad nauseum about how we communicate. We never say that you are doing bad, but this is the bad behavior. So you tell them, you want to set it up. Come and tell me if you have concerns. Sometimes students do the wrong things because they're afraid you're going to think they're stupid if they ask. Sometimes they don't want to ask because they think that you're going to think they haven't learned what they need to know, and you're going to tell the instructor they didn't know the answer to this question. Sometimes they'll go and do things because they think you expect them to be able to do more on their own. They expect that you think that they have to be independent. So if we can communicate and we can tell them, come see me if you have any concerns, come see me if you have any problems, and set up from the very beginning. If I see you not doing something correctly, I will let you know because I care enough to make sure that you don't continue to do that. I mean, that's what I tell my students. If I'm in the room and I clear my voice or I reach over and touch you, you're immediately to look for my eyes, because I'm going to communicate something to you that we can't communicate verbally in front of the patient. So I need to tell you right now with my eyes something. So, we have those kind of communication patterns. I mean, because, there's nothing that frightens a patient. And I don't have to make up a story. I just have to tell you my story. Had a student, bless her heart, the tip of the peg tube came out. That's was, but this was a first semester student. So you can imagine that was very frightening to her. And she did, the little tip came out, nothing happened bad, and she says, "Oh my God, sweet Jesus." And so the little patient sits up. I mean, this patient sits up. And they're looking, I said, "It's okay, it's okay. The little tip just came out. It happens all the time, nothing's wrong." But I didn't get a chance to really communicate with them. But I do try to communicate with them. I know, the poor patient. I do try to communicate before we go in a room. This is how I'm going to say if there's a problem, if we're doing something and I can't say it out loud in front of the patient. Have those kind of things in place when you're communicating. Because oftentimes students will reach the expectation that you set, and if they know the expectations, they'll do it. It's when they're not clear about it, sometimes that we get in trouble. Okay, now, this is what we expect the student to look like. All of them come, I'm sure, with that have-to-have written work. I know for us they do. And it has to be complete. We're not asking you to spend hours making sure that it is all that it's supposed to be. You're kind of looking for completion. But you can ask a few questions. You know whether that person knows what they're talking about. Like if I have a patient that is in the throes of dying of bone cancer, and I ask my student, what is your greatest issue that you're going to deal with today, and they say constipation, then I know that we have missed the boat on their thoughtful reflection about what the problem would be for this patient that day. And it could be that we're grieving dying, that our family's grieving dying, and then I'm in agony and pain, and they totally missed that boat. So a few questions, and you can know whether that student is. And so you say to them, you know, that's not really, let's do this again. Let's think about that. What do you really think? This is what I'm thinking. And so you really help grow. That's such a wonderful opportunity for you to grow that student. You want to know their knowledge base, their safe behavior. Are they ethical? Okay. Do you catch the student talking about the patient? How do they respect? Are they respectful to the patient? Because if they're not, and I've had students not be respectful. Are they competent? Now, again, competency is based on the level of the student. There is no student nurse that can completely do an IV 100% without some little guidance. I mean, even in 4th semester, they still need probably a little bit of cueing, but just not as much as they would need early on. Because I've had nurses say that, well, they couldn't even hang piggybacks. I said, this is their first semester, this is their first day, this is the first time they're doing IVs. So again, that goes back to us in the academic setting, clearly telling you where these students are. And then what kind of patient care do they provide? Has everybody here worked with somebody that you would not want to take care of you?
Yes.
Okay. What are some of those reasons you wouldn't want them to take care of you? What were they doing? What was the behavior that you wouldn't want them to take care of you?
They were not knowledgeable.
They were not knowledgeable. Okay.
Just weren't gentle.
They weren't gentle.
Weren't supportive.
Or supportive. They weren't caring. Okay. Well, I assure you, every instructor in this room, in all the facilities that we represent, want our student to be all of those things. The opposite. We want them to be the caring, the gentle, and the compassionate, and the kind, and the respectful. And that's all about ethical behavior. And so we certainly want to know that. We want to know if they own their mistakes. Have you ever had somebody that blames everybody else? Students will do that. They blame me. I was quite interested in how it was my fault they didn't get their paperwork done. But they actually had a real good reason, according to them, because they had to look up too many things. I did, exactly. But, you know, we want to know that they are providing patient care appropriate for their level. Because these are all things you're going to look at. These are all things that you're going to evaluate the student by. Okay? Now, there are parts of an evaluation. There's the formative and there's the summative. The summative is at the end. Everything's done. They've done everything they could do right or wrong. We're just documenting it. But the formative is what we will do every day, kind of minute by minute, and certainly about midway. Where are we with the process? And again, it occurs throughout the experience. It's from day one. You're starting to evaluate that student day one. I would not be impressed with a student that showed up late, unkempt, not in uniform, didn't have their work, talking on the cell phone, chewing gum. I mean, I wouldn't think that we're doing too good right off the bat. So we know that from the very beginning. Find out where they are, how they learn, what they think they need to learn, and their readiness to learn. We call it a teachable spirit. There are some students, nurses, that want to know, want to learn, and then there's some that think they know it already. And then they're the ones that don't have such a teachable spirit. Your faculty needs to know if they're not listening to you. If you're communicating to them and telling them what they need to do and helping, and they're not listening, you need to let us know. Because we're your partner, we're like this. And sometimes I think they can get away a little bit more with you all than they can with us. I think they're a little more intimidated by us because we have the A, B, C, or D behind their grade. And they know that you're going to participate and contribute, but they're also told that you don't have the final, you don't assign that, because we don't want that, you to have that pressure. But you have to communicate with us if there's a problem. There is not a faculty that doesn't want to know if their students aren't behaving at expected standards. Again, alert us to the problems, help to design the learning experience. You all must be excellent at what you're doing. So you might have a really unique way to try to teach that student what they need to do, because I've come in, obviously they're not taking vital signs correctly, something's wrong, so I need to go with them or go over that. I would hope it would be something that basic, I would hope it would be something a little high level, but depending on if you have first semester students or not, certainly would be that. So if you see an opportunity for them to teach, but it may not be with you, it's with another nurse who has a patient that has something really interesting going on, it's okay for you to say, I want you to go and observe that. It's okay for you to say that. It's okay for you to call the faculty member and say they need more time in the lab. I mean, they just really can't even get to a point where I can help them here. Allow time for correction. Once you identify an issue or a problem, we have to allow time for that student to have opportunity to improve. Not one of you would want the head nurse to come in and say, okay, you didn't start that IV correctly, so you're fired and I'm sending you home. You get no opportunity for correction. We get no opportunity for remediation. We wouldn't want to do that to the students either. So we always try very hard to give them time for correction. And it's a little more formalized at midterm. But this will depend on your academic setting. The different colleges have different times when they want to evaluate. And I know for us, our students aren't at Baptist for a very long time, so it's hard to have a midterm when they're only there, what, 3 or 4 days? 4? Yeah, it's kind of hard to do that.